Hello, everybody. Welcome to Open Studio Live with Kristen. That's me. I have been trying to get a audio show together for ages, and so this is like a lot of other things I do. This is a lab thing for me, but hopefully we'll be able to come together every Monday, either live like this on LinkedIn or YouTube. And some of you are watching this on Patreon. And you can always go back and watch what you missed. The other great thing about this show is that if you've already read the newsletter, a lot of what you read in the newsletter is going to be right here familiar to you. Also, in future weeks, I'm going to be having some folks be interviewed. Now, sometimes I may have somebody that was only in the print edition of the newsletter or printish edition of the newsletter, but other folks are also going to be able to come by and we're going to talk to them and they'll be here with us right here in Open Studio. Also, if you have been a patron, one of the benefits you've had up to now, the new benefit I'm going to talk about in just a moment, is having these videos. But now everybody will have access to those videos. Also, if you've been advertising on the newsletter, the video is also game. I can also read your advertisement. I can also put it up on the screen. You'll see me put some things up on the screen. You'll see what that looks like a little later. But first and foremost, since some of you may be getting to know me through just this platform, this may be the first time you've ever seen me, I'm going to throw my slides right back up here so you can get to know me a little bit better. Once again, that is me. I'm Kristen Jeffers. You can find me at Black Urbanist on Twitter. And you can also email me for anything, questions, want to be an advertiser, Kristen at theblackurbanist.com, and the main site is theblackurbanist.com. Theblackurbanist.com is going to be undergoing construction. You'll notice that some of the coloring is a little bit different there and everything. These next few months are going to be a very transitional period, and today is the beginning of that. This month's the beginning of that. And so let me talk to you a little bit about what I'm here and what I'm doing. Just double check and see if you can see these slides. So this work is driven by this particular child, me at age 3 in 1988. We in psychological circles, we talk about this concept of the inner child, the person on the inside, the version of you on the inside. Sometimes that person needs caring for. And in the case of my work, like this is the person that started to have these ideas. This is the image of this person that started to have these ideas. And if you read the newsletter these past couple of weeks, I've been talking a lot about this person and why it's important to have a plan for our individual inner children, especially if we are already marginalized, if we're not the norm or what's been made the norm in the world. So yeah, this is when I'm talking about planning, I'm thinking about the world that I inhabited, where yes, I in fact could ride a tricycle in a bright yellow short suit and some blue kids on a tricycle there. I am proudly from Greensboro, North Carolina, even though many of you know I do not live there at the moment. That's why Greensboro opened up our slide package, our opening theme package for us today. So what kept me going in this work, this is myself and some colleagues, comrades in 2015, we grew up in the shadows of the civil rights movement. We grew up in the shadows of being in what's considered a new South City, where post-slavery there were a lot of free black folks. There was a lot of black educational institutions, yet we still had segregation. And to this day, we've had some issues with economic justice and access, and even though we're largely, the city is queer friendly for the most part, that's not always as prevalent in communities of color, and that's something that we're actively working on as well. But we have a charge. This is something we've been doing, and of course, prior to me kind of going out into the world and doing this work, that's something I've been doing. Many times I show up as a guide to help people create culturally competent and affirming physical spaces. This is the Hyperion Gateway part of One Pratt Plaza, which is an ASLA award. And ASLA is the American Society of Landscape Architects, for those of you who aren't aware. this is an award-winning project that I had the opportunity to serve as the public engagement and media lead on back in 2015. This is me working at the second annual Women's Bike Summit put on by Bike Walk KC, who I worked for at the time. Some of you met me during this phase. Some of you may be watching that are in this photograph. So this is, you might remember this. And of course, this conference continues on. This conference, I think they restarted it last year. I haven't been keeping up as much with all of our events and such, but all of these events are still ongoing. And I put this up here because to me, it really symbolized helping individual elders and siblings and people thrive. So I wanted to make sure that this is something that you all are aware of. That's what the core of what I do, in addition to creating this media platform. And then, of course, many of you met me for the first time in this setting. I'm at a conference, I'm speaking in front of you, I'm sitting on a panel. I haven't done this in person in these times, but in the before times, and of course this is 2016, this is where I was. Now I haven't quite turned the globe yet, but of course if you can watch these YouTubes and LinkedIn lives and whatever video platform you're watching these all over the world. Now, let's see, I went backwards there. And so something else I've done, and this is why those of you might have noticed on LinkedIn that I have fiber artists in my profile. One of the ways that Greensboro made money and what created Greensboro was textile manufacturing. That was our main industry for the longest time. And so during this pandemic period, I've reconnected with my fiber artistry. I did make that skirt. I did not make that shirt. Thank you, Target, for giving me shirts that still fit my pandemic body. And thank you to the folks that sold me. I think I ordered the stripes online, and I went to a local yarn store in Fredericksburg, Virginia for the cotton. Last weekend was local yarn store day. I do have posts. I have things I'll probably share on social around that. But yeah, I make a lot of things I love out of fiber, and I'm in the process of working on at least the specs and the idea of creating a space around doing fiber together. So that is, I'm gonna put my face back up on the screen here. That is why I'm here. That is why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I am just grateful and thankful to be able to continue to do this. Let's see. I see I have somebody. Hi, Karen. I can sort of see your comment here. For some reason, as I'm over here in StreamYard, it won't let me scroll up, but let me make sure that's not a question. Let's see. I'm going to go over, but anyway, I'll come back to that. Yes, please do put the questions here. And the beautiful thing about StreamYard is I can also put your shout outs on the screen. Yes, thank you, Karen. Okay. Yeah, so if you have questions, if you have comments, I can kind of throw these things up on the screen. Thank you to StreamYard. They are not officially sponsoring me, but if they want to, please consider doing that. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and throw that banner up here if you want to support, because I'm going to go ahead and shift over to talking about these training materials that I'm going to be doing. Let me see if this, I'm going to hit the present. Okay. There's a little bit of music with this. I'm going to turn it down a little bit so you can kind of hear the music and me talking. Okay, wait, that just took the presentation off. All right, let's try this again. Okay. All right, so this is the training I've been telling you about, the 2022 Black Queer Feminist Urbanist Intensive with me. Let's see. I'm not sure if you can see this set of slides. So I'm going to pause this again. All right, yeah. Totally could not see the slides here, but thank you all. Feel free, if you're watching the recording of this, just fast forward through this part of the video. This is another reason to go over on Patreon and pledge for an amount of your choosing, or go over to GoFundMe and search for my name, search for the Black Urbanist Capital Campaign. All those things will allow me to raise money to have a team to help me do all these wonderful things and come to you every Monday with everything together. So I am going to now, let's see, this should now be coming up on the screen here. More information about these training courses. For patrons, just know that these are going to replace your levels. Okay, you can hear the music. All right, I'm going to just be over here on the side and talking. So let me... I'm going to turn this music down a little bit so you can still hear me over the music. So, yes. So all the sections, it looks like I think the music's going to play over me, but all the sections, you get a worksheet. You get a video like this where I'm going to talk to the worksheet. These May office hours, I'm going to address different things. So feel free to come by these live video chats if you have questions. And definitely encourage your friends, if you're not already in these sections, come on by. Depending on what section you're in, I do have some special bonuses for you, depending on, because the sections have different angles. And you're going to see that in just a moment. And then you can still access me like one-on-one after May, especially those of you who are going to be in the section that requires you to create a plan. Absolutely, we're going to be continuing to talk. But for some others of you, this is going to be okay. I fill out the worksheet, I find it. I might want to check in with Kristen a few months from now. As long as you are pledged or you've purchased like the one-off, this is also going to come out as a print worksheet. All these things are going to launch across the month of May. So if you don't want to just do it digital, you want a hard copy, let me know. I'm going to work on hard copies. I do have one person already in one section. You're going to get a digital copy right now. I'm just going to warn you, get a digital copy, but you will be eligible for a hard copy of this information as time goes on. And so let me get to what each section entails. So wait, not back. All right, so once again, I've thrown this picture in here because I feel like if you can relate to my life and me being having been on the covers of magazines, having been active in any iteration of these modern civil rights movements, but you still need to know that there's folks out here that you're not getting exactly what you need in real life, or there's something missing. Come on by. There is a Black Queer Feminist Urbanist Lounge. Go over on Mighty Networks, search for it. There's also a link to it in the newsletter, as I promised. Link is in the newsletter. In fact, let me see if I can put, and of course, I've got the scroll down here. If you want these training materials, you can head right over to patreon.com/Kristen Jeffers if you're already ready. If you do pledge on Patreon, there is a minimum $5 charge. But if you join the lounge, if you need to join the lounge, that is complimentary. But if you want to support this section in particular, pledge at the $5 level, and you will get the Defining Yourself for Yourself workbook. You'll get a video just like I'm talking here, but it'll just be about the parts of the workbook. And then there is, if you want to go up to another level, which I'm about to talk about those other two levels, you can do that. You can go ahead and do that, but we can have that conversation if you want to tackle some of the other coursework. If you're in the affirmation section as a Black Queer Feminist Urbanist, it's easy to go up, but it's not as easy to go back. But I can work with you wherever you come into this, wherever you relate to this. What I wanted to do this time with my training school was not have it so heavily focused on, okay, if you're this race or this class, you're having this experience. I wanted it to kind of affirm that those of us who are Black queer feminists and urbanists, it's a very unique set of intersections. It's a very unique thing. Those of us who specifically work in planning and urbanism, there's a lot of things going on around us. But I think this is also relatable for you if you're working in nonprofit, if you're working in faith communities, if you are working in social enterprise, if you're in the education system, anything that, if you're in a library, like, don't think you got to be an urban planner to be an urbanist. This is a broader Black queer feminist urbanism. To me, in the way that I've been presenting it. And of course, there's other folks who present Black queer feminism, and there are Black queer feminisms. And my particular Black queer feminism is one rooted in a little bit in urbanism. And of course, that urbanism is nowhere near what the urbanism is that they're trying to put out here for us in the world. So if that's you, come over to the lounge. Email me if you need some help with placement, or go on over to Patreon and kick that $5 a month. I will be happy to have that, and just let me know if that works for you. Now, with solidarity, and I've thrown this picture back up here because I felt like, once again, this does represent solidarity to me. So, if you are still marginalized or feel marginalized, say to my brothers who are like, well, I'm a straight Black man, but I want to be supportive. Like, I want to support my sisters and siblings, and I get that this is different, but this is still a new thing for me, but I don't want to be like, a horrible person about it. Or if you are a white feminist and you are knee deep into feminism, you have read your bell hooks and your Audre Lorde and everybody else, but you still need some help with understanding centering and not centering yourself, but you're not quite ready to go over and facilitating justice and belonging, where you're actively working on a project, but you just need to understand, okay, this is the process that my colleagues have gone through in affirmation. These are the things that are missing in their neighborhoods. Because basically, your worksheet here in Solidarity is exactly the same as it is in affirmation. But I'm challenging you all with a little bit of extra privilege to consider how those of us who are not as privileged, or not as, like, well, I guess for lack of a better word, are missing those things. And I want to nudge you, and I want you to be considerate and thinking about going up to the next level of facilitating justice and belonging. But for now, this is good for you if you're like a government employee and you don't have like position power, or you work under, say, a mayor, a governor, a congressperson. You're an assistant pastor. You're an assistant director, and you're not a Black, you don't consider yourself a Black queer feminist urbanist, but you consider yourself maybe a little bit of something, or you're woke enough, but you need that extra level of support and like that extra immersement, and maybe you're new to the urbanism part and you just want to get a sense of what that is. $10 a month, and there's also going to be a $75. This package individually will be $75. That will be available this coming Wednesday. You will get notified, so don't worry if you don't see those links anywhere. You will get notified. They will be published if you're on LinkedIn, and then there will also be a link for you whenever you find this YouTube video. Patrons, go on over to $10. Now, if you're already in the $10 level, or you're already pledging at $10, I'll go in. You may want to move your membership if you're already at $5 or $10 monthly, because I did have legacy $5 and $10 levels, and yes, that means you're eligible, but I would like at least a heads up that you are working through this material, especially if you're gonna go on with me to the 3rd level. And that level is facilitating justice and belonging. So you might notice that I'm in all these pictures. So that's something else I wanted to make different this calendar year with doing a training course. In that I recognize that I could reasonably sit in all these places, and I've been in all these places. I've needed affirmation of myself. I've needed to be in solidarity with other people, just on a personal level, not on I'm doing this for as a power broker or anything. But I'm also a person of influence. Y'all are sitting here watching me and watching this video at some point, in some place, at some time. Some of you have sat next to me on these stages, and yes, I have something for you too. Some of you are aware of some of the positions and some of the coaching that I've been doing to get folks in certain positions of power. And that could be you as well. If you're ready to go to the next level in your job, if you're ready to be a mayor, be on council, run for Congress, shoot for executive director position, all of that. This is the first stage. Going to the $40 a month pledge spreads out that fee. Or you could do this package plus I'll charge you a coaching fee for the remainder of the year because we're going to be doing this together. But you could go ahead and just pledge it $40 a month and for a minimum of 12 months, and we can meet every week. One other thing that you'll be required to do if you actively do facilitating justice and belonging, we'll absolutely have to have a clarity call, and we will absolutely be reviewing your full 34 Clifton Strengths report. Clifton Strengths is kind of my favorite of all these work personality tests. As much as I'm for unpacking systems, this is one way that I like to benchmark myself on what the system, as it were, thinks that I'm able to do. So basically, my Clifton Strengths, my top 5 say that I should be doing things like this. I should be just getting on a mic and talking to you all, showing videos, writing letters, being on stages. I should top level all of that, and then I should get people to help me do the other things. So whatever you want to do, like facilitating justice and belonging for you could be building a data screen. It could be building a map company. It could be creating a philanthropy. It could be you are a philanthropist, or you're in a position where you could do something and you don't want to do damage, or you might have done some damage and you need some help cleaning up. So totally, please consider doing this. And those of you all who are already at $40 a month on Patreon, you are eligible. You do not have to do it in May of this year, but do consider doing it because it's going to be here for you. And yes, you'll get the basic worksheet this week, but by the end of May, you're going to get the full-blown, full-color, full-spaced worksheet to be able to plug in all of your information. So if you're ready to do this already, make sure you're on Wednesday. You're going to get the basic worksheet. Go ahead and play with that. All of you all are going to get your basic worksheets this week, but we'll be back here at office hours. I'll have a little segment to talk about this, check in with everybody, give y'all a chance. Or you might see a little ad, just like I made the little opening credits. I might have a little ad there to help you get in the loop. So with all of that, I am going to, let's see, I don't even know if the music played. I heard it. Okay. So let's, okay, let me just close that tab because it's going to play music. And I don't need that anymore. So if any of you have questions, there's all of this information is on the Patreon. Go here. That is scrolling on the bottom of your screen, no matter what platform you are looking at this on. Also, I put the newsletter link in the YouTube and LinkedIn comments. So you should have everything you need to figure out what one is right for you for this week. And this will be out here. This is also, if you're in the $40 level, you still have access to last year's training, the Chocolate Cities book training. Now, no, there's 14 sessions of that. We did that over the course of a year. We're not doing that this time. This time, one video, one worksheet, and if you want to have a meeting with me one-on-one, if you don't want to do clarity calls, those are optional for those of you in affirmation and solidarity. They are not optional if you're in facilitating justice and belonging because of the nature of the work that you're doing. And if you're in one of the lower levels and you need some customization to the worksheets, then let me know. And at that point, you can also instigate a relationship. Now, note, once we start doing more work together, I may ask you to move up a level, or I may invoice you for more time. So just keep that in mind. But before that happens, I'll talk to you, and I'll also help you get professional development credits. I'll also help you get APA credits if that's appropriate, or that makes sense for you, or whatever professional development, whatever letter of recommendations, all of those things will be available to you for working with me. And that is my goal with this training, to be something that's useful across the kind of human services helping professions. We are still asking our offices, asking our institutions to do better by us. We are still reforming our systems. And next week, I'm looking forward to talking about watching the Parable of the Sower opera in the newsletter and right here on Open Studio, and talking about how that impacted me. But still processing watching the play, and I'm still looking for there may be some more interviews coming, so we're going to talk about that next week. But I'm going to throw back on some of our little background music here that we had when you came in. Let me see here. We'll try out some things here. Okay, well, we're going to rock with that. And so this is the part of the show where I highlight some of the articles that I talked about in the newsletter. So feel free to go over to the newsletter if you haven't already. LinkedIn, folks, it's all in-house. Patreon, folks, everything will be in-house after this. Probably give me about 30 minutes for me to load everything in. And you'll be able to get to know what I was really interested in. Also, I want you to go over one of the things I mentioned in the newsletter, but I didn't make a blog for because it's already living on YouTube. YouTubers, go over to Team Racing Productions and search for my name and search for my interview with Team Racing Productions. We are getting into what I like to call Black Pride season here in DC. Black Pride is the weekend, roughly 2 weekends before the main Capitol Pride. This was Black Pride was started a few years ago to actually lift up African American and African diasporic people of the LGBTQIA plus community. I've talked about this many times, and I do talk about that on that episode of the Team Racing Productions stream. Of course, racing themselves is legendary, both in the general world of legendary as well as the ballroom world of legendary. Both meanings are very real and very there. And there's a whole library of talks with various people in the queer community as well as like DC area locals. My dear Les is on there. I think she was on there last year. So yeah, go over there to Team Racing Productions. Find me, find her, find all of us, and listen up and get to know more about that community. So let me throw up some more of the articles that kind of moved me this week. I forgot to clip the one that I clipped in the newsletter about the vocational all. So I'll just talk about it briefly. So over in the newsletter, I clipped this article. It's written by a Black woman. It was written in 2018. It's about like releasing all from your vocational all from your work, specifically in the library setting, but any setting that has kind of assumed that you need to take a vow of poverty or secrecy or celibacy or any of those things. It's time to rethink that. And of course, I just talked about my course where you can come and rethink those things, but hopefully you'll be prompted to do that everywhere. So time is up. Whether you're in the libraries or you're in the schools or you're in a nonprofit situation, nonprofit is not what you think it means. It does not mean that you as an employee, and even you as the executive director, cannot make enough and raise enough money to live and manage the entity. What it means is you're probably not going to be $1 billion nonprofit. But you could be, because all nonprofit says is that's not the main goal. You're not making decisions because they are profitable. You're making decisions because they're the right thing to do. And also there's so many layers, because I know you're going to ask, you're like, okay, Kristen, you know there's so many layers to this. You know that the laws on nonprofit were in the progressive era, and they're just like urban planning. There's racism and classism and sexism tied up into it. So yeah. That article is in the clip. It's in the by the way section. By the way section is what I'm highlighting right now. Next week I'll make sure I have a little bit of a transition here, so you know that I'm in the by the way section right here on the live stream. But yeah, definitely go over there and read up on that. I thought it was very pertinent. I found it. I think it was in. I believe it was in Anne Helen Pedersen's newsletter, Culture Study. So definitely I want to shout that out. She had given a speech about this concept to, it wasn't ALA, the American Library Association's big conference, which will be here in DC in a few weeks. It was a different library group, a little bit smaller library group. But I wanted to give props to the sister who wrote this letter and really honor more Black feminist talk and everything. Let's see. My little music just went away. Now I'm going to loop it. So, all right. So, yeah, definitely let's think about moving away from vocational awe and this ability thing of not being able to speak out and say that something's wrong at work. I want to commend all of you. So many of you that I follow on LinkedIn are great at that. I'm learning a lot from you. And many of you are learning from me that it's okay to say this. And no, you do not have to just, you don't have to have a platform like this. It could be just something as simple as saying, hey, can we do this a different way? Hey, we've been working at home for a while. Could we continue to unofficially do so? Can I have time to take my child to school? I'm now taking care of elderly members. Hey, I actually have long COVID, so I need a little extra time. Or we found some things out. We are in a different world now. So, yeah, there were certain things that we used to do. And of course, especially those of you who have been traveling. Like, we need time to recover. Like, in the before times, I wouldn't go outside for a couple days because the on and off the plane, through the airport. So that's another reason I'm just kind of easing slowly into civilization. If you've seen me in civilization over the past week, know that there was some provision made to make that feel safe for me. And that otherwise, or I just couldn't, or if I wasn't able to get to your event, that there was still some other things going on. But I definitely am going to see as many people as I can. The summer is coming up. It is warm, and I'm very excited about that. So, speaking of, let's see, what do I want to talk about next? Let me just give props to this Shondaland article. I'm gonna just throw this up here. So this is what I'm gonna try to normally do when I want to talk about articles. And remember, links are in the comments to the main newsletter in the by the way section. So I liked this article because once again, I'm a sucker for any article like this where we have a chance to talk about how Black women, or what I wrote, I flat out said, Black, gender diverse, non-binary people have been holding it down. We've, whether it's those of you who grew up in the Black Baptist Church, grew up in the Black Southern Church, y'all remember them fruit baskets. That is a form of philanthropy. I mean, after a certain point, you're like, not again, but years ago when people weren't able to when we weren't doing as well as the people, especially not in church circles. And even now, today, like I drive past the South Capitol food distribution they have on Wednesdays here just on that DC-PG border, and just, hey, sometimes I'm not away from, we're all a check away, tragedy away, and that's where that power comes in. So those of you who are watching the earlier part, or if you go back and watch the part where I'm talking about like the different training intensives, you're thinking, am I really ready for something like this? You might be, because we've been doing this. And so read that Shondaland article. It just came out within the last week or so. It's called, this is its title, How Black Women Have Powered Philanthropy Through History. On LinkedIn there are, and YouTube the captions are there, and I want to honor that. I want to honor the captions. So definitely take a look at this article and let it motivate you that you're powerful than you might imagine. And if you aren't a Black woman and you're over here watching on the side, we're more powerful than you imagine. And yes, if you're a Black man, we know, hold us down, lift us up. And if you're something else, the same thing. Please hold us down, lift us up. And likewise, we'll do the same to you, especially if you are of a non-white, non-straight population still going through, and non-wealthy population still going through your own stuff. So, all right, to a more fun thing. I clipped 2 food-related articles from my old friend and colleague Eric Ginsberg, who is based out of Greensboro, Jewish guy. He wrote this wonderful article in Bon Appetit about a restaurant in Richmond called Jufro, which combines Jewish diasporic and African diasporic, and of course those diasporas actually do merge in body, but in this particular restaurant they merge in spirit. So you can go to the link and watch that. And what I'm really excited about is this link. To to say that I never imagined, one, that we would get our own eater. Now, eater is Eater Carolinas that encompasses both states. So North and South Carolina do share an eater. It's not like Eater DC where but then again, there's 3 states in this region. Well, 2 states in the district. So, okay, all right, I'll take that. Technically, New York is, what we consider New York is the tri-state area. Come and fight me over that. Go, if you really want to come in these comments and fight me over that, you can. But and then, Chicagoland is really like the bulk of Illinois, a little bit of Wisconsin. Some would consider Milwaukee. So I'm not too upset that Eater is shared across the Carolinas. And what we know already, as that beautiful article of Eric's in Bon Appetit really spells out, that food diasporas are always been merged, and much of American food, especially the more savory elements of American food, are African diasporic traditions. And so that's what this article honors. It honors so many of my favorites are on this list. Dame's Chicken and Waffles, which is mentioned here in the block. Oh man, like the last time I went, I was in Durham with Les in the fall of 2019. Definitely need to get back there again. Of course, with the pandemic, I have yet to come. It's been literally about 2 years since I've driven across the state line, North Carolina. So looking forward to managing to squeeze that in, managing to go to some of these places. And I want to RIP. I want to lift up a Rest in Power and Rest in Paradise, Jack's Corner, a wonderful little Mediterranean deli, as well as Smith Street Diner, 2 places that I feel like would have been on this list had they still been operating. But everywhere else you see is on a quarter, and of course some of those dots that are a little bit spread out away. Another thing I did notice was missing, and I do want to lift up, I don't remember if there was a Calabash Seafood House on this list. I do think it's a glaring error. I know for a lot of us, like, we much rather come up here, like those of y'all who come here to DC and Baltimore and get your pick of Chesapeake crabs. Yes, it's a whole different world. And of course, if you have Calabash Seafood in Calabash, North Carolina, on the coast, and I'm sure Eater has touched on this cuisine. And the inland version isn't the greatest, but I grew up on Mayflower and Harbor Inn, and I would have to include them here on my essential lists of restaurants, as well as what's already included here. But Stephanie's too is here. And if you've seen that one photograph of myself and my dad where he's got on the 1960 shirt, that is the absolute last picture I have of him together with me alive. We were celebrating his 53rd birthday. Of course, we didn't know that would be the last birthday, but it's so nice to see that restaurant is there. And not only is it a special place for me in that it's very popular, and it's, in a lot of ways, it's revitalizing that area of Greensboro. It's also around the corner from the infamous Waffle House that we always would go to. So it does touch me. And as you can see, it's a little bit out of the way. It's a little by the wayside. One day I'm going to do one of these open studios. It's going to be kind of a breakdown of my hometown. Now that I'm doing more of this video content, you're going to get some more different ways of me telling these stories, which I'm very, very excited about. And Eric, if you're watching, holler at me. I would love to sit down and talk, have an interview here, do a split screen here. That's something else I'm excited about being able to do with these platforms here. So yeah, that's one thing I wanted to highlight this week. I was really excited about. Let me go back, because there's one more article. Oh, that's it for the articles, but I wanted to highlight that I have a book shop. I forgot to drop this link in the newsletter today, but that does not mean that I have forgotten that this is not anywhere near as important as anything else, because we are coming to the end of our time together, at least the end of our planned time together. I'm not seeing any questions and comments in here, but I do want to encourage you to go over to my bookshop.org page, bookshop.org/shop/Kristen E. Jeffers. And I have my Black Queer Feminist Urbanist book list, which I've added some books to. I added Consumed by Asia Barber, who really gets into how the clothing industry is an aid in colonialism. And of course, as I've said before, I grew up in a textile town. So that's where the economy came to build the buildings, to build the institutions. So for me, and my urbanism, the urbanism that I have built, consumed is an important book. Likewise, this long thread talks about being a person of color in fiber, even though we're often the ones in big corporate fiber, not making enough money, not making any money at all, in sweatshops. Asia's book gets into that. This long thread gets more into like being a person in those spaces. I'm shouting out here, The Body's Not an Apology, Sonya Renee Taylor. If you're gonna pledge somebody else on Patreon, please pledge on her. She's got some wonderful work around body shame and reducing body shame, and specifically those of us who are in black and brown bodies, fatter and larger bodies than we used to be. And then Les and I are reading this Chocolate City together. Now, of course, you can kind of see a little slither, the Chocolate City that I did the presentation on. If you go up to the $40 level, that's also something that's available to you as well. And I think I might have made the original book talk public to everybody on Patreon. That's another reason why you're going to see less of me on Twitter and more of me on LinkedIn, Patreon, and a little bit more of me on Substack. You'll also be able to get some audio. I'm going to be working this so that I can do a little audio piece of it as well. In fact, I might export it down, just see what the raw audio sounds like. Feel free to tell me if you're listening to this as just raw audio, or if you haven't been paying attention to the screen and just having it listening in the background. Let me know how I did, and hopefully all the sound has been working. That has been a thing. Okay, all right, just reassuring myself that I haven't just been talking to myself. I think y'all would have told me if you couldn't hear me. I would hope y'all would have told me on one of these comment things if you couldn't hear me. But we're reading This Chocolate City. It's specifically about DC. It's the book that came out in 2017. At first I thought, okay, why are we getting another version of Dream City? But then I've been reading Dream City on Internet Archive. Dream City really just covers the Marion Barry era. Chocolate City takes us from the Native American settlements here to gentrification in this era. And it's no secret, those of you who know me in real life, those of you who have had a chance to really sit down and talk with me, especially during this internal pandemic season, questioning living in DC is something I do all the time. I think many of us do all the time. And so I think that's a great book. And of course, One for the Other Sons is one of the most recent books I added. So that's still there. They're always a good classic to help you understand the Great Migration. And I have other book lists. I have a Chris Pattern book list for those of you who are kind of more connecting with me around the fiber art consumed in this long thread are on there, along with Jen Hewitt's other practice book, along with Toni Lipsey, another black crocheters, her Tunisian crochet handbook, really lifting up all people I know in fiber and art that are making great books, and connecting the political and the cultural with that as well. And then I have a general black urbanist book list. My dear elder Melvin Mitchell, his book African American Architects is on there that I help kind of push out the word for. That's on there. I put Chocolate Cities on that list. Both Chocolate Cities books are on that list because they're important to black urbanism and urbanism in general. And then the Great Society Subway. Some of that story is also in Chocolate City, but I haven't gotten to that chapter yet, but I'm looking forward to getting to how they talk about that particular part in this grand scheme, this grand long scheme of things in the world. So I'm coming up on just under an hour. And I'm gonna take these books back off the screen so you can end with my smiling face. So the scroll on the bottom has been, if you want these materials, please pledge. If you need to read the newsletter for this week on Patreon, it will be there for all existing patrons. It'll be coming. The materials will be coming. The first round of materials will be coming this coming Wednesday. They will be spreading out across the month. So if you don't see everything on Wednesday, don't despair. It'll spread out. It will launch throughout the month. I'll be creating the material and putting it out there. And then going forward, I'll be here on Mondays sharing with you all. I've wanted to do some kind of show for a while. It's just me, and You know, we were living in this world that it is. And so another thing, by giving, Patreon, GoFundMe, Venmo, Cash App, all those things help me so that I can consistently do this work. I can be here. I can correct my typos. I can sleep. I can nod, bite Les's head off. All those things that tend to happen when you get stressed out doing something. Also, I'll be announcing some things going on with EndoQueer and a lot of the things that Les is doing. I'll also be sharing anything else. I've got talented cousins out here. I've got talented friends. So you're going to hear those things. And one more time, if you want to advertise, now that I'm doing this video thing for real, the advertisements are available for you in the for here. And what will happen is I'll probably either read your name out, or I might make you a little block just like I did the articles, or I'll put you on the scroll. Just whatever, we'll work it out. All that information will be added to the advertising page. But for now, you can advertise, and your for this calendar year of 2022, the advertising rates across the board for the platform will be the same. So if you're on a budget this year, or if you want to go ahead and plan for next year, let's have a conversation. Like, if you want to advertise for the remaining 6 months of 2022 on any of these platforms, this is the time to talk to me about that. This video is on YouTube, it is on Patreon, it is on LinkedIn. And it is an official LinkedIn Live, and it is also on the Black Urbanist YouTube. So that's an opportunity to reach people. And then this will be available on Substack as well. So that's just like the new newsletter is. The newsletter itself is on Medium, Substack now, LinkedIn, as well as the original MailChimp list, as well as archived on my website. And then, of course, those entities bounce out to Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And about that, I'm reestablishing my relationship to social media sites. I know some of y'all, I might be disappearing off the face of the earth. It may seem, depending on what your favorite social site is, depending on what your boundaries and barriers are on social sites. I'm going to try to have a little presence on every social site, but the meat of what I'm doing is going to be in these newsletters and these videos, and the meat will be on LinkedIn, it'll be on YouTube, and it'll be on Patreon. So if you really, really don't want to miss anything that I'm doing, pick one of those 3, and those will consistently have everything that I'm doing. Or shoot me an email. Let's set up a clarity call. Let's touch base one-on-one. Many of us are professional colleagues, and that's honestly the best way to keep up with me and know what's going on and know how you can be helpful and know what connections you can make. And if I can also be of service to you, I still am doing career coaching, resumes, cover letter reviews. If you need a letter of recommendation and I know enough about you to recommend you, and we're not like blood relatives or anything of that closeness, definitely let me know about that as well. So that is all for this week. Thank you all so much for watching this just under an hour. And I'm gonna go out with, I'm gonna throw back up a little thing here where I had my contact information, and so I'm just gonna play that out for at least another few minutes or so. So if you want to go back and watch parts you've missed, if you want to if you want to catch up on this, it'll be archived. It's probably already archived now. So in the meantime, until next time, take care. And once again, patrons, your newsletter will be posted shortly. In fact, while I'm got this up on the screen, I'm going to be putting that together. So take care and see you again soon.